All right, and we're live with the spoiler cast, the multiverse spoiler cast for Civil War. We got a lot of stuff to do. We got a lot of people in here. We might show up a little bit later. But we have first off, we got Friggy Gaming from the just a little bit earlier. But before I introduce each one of you, we're gonna do a brief 30-second review of Civil War. So let's get started. We'll let Friggy go first.
Okay, so in terms of my 30-second review of Civil War, I'd say that I enjoyed it a lot. And in terms of ranking it in the MCU, it's among the top 3. I'm not sure if I can say it was the best, but it's definitely among the top 3. I thought it was a really solid movie. Adapted the right things from the Civil War storyline, and I think it's a really good, solid starting point for Phase 3.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we also got Tony from Throwdown Podcast.
All right, what's going on, people? So yeah, 30 seconds. This movie was fucking great. Like, Marvel does it once again. I was really, really hyped up for this movie, and I'm so happy that it not only met my expectations, actually exceeded them. Black Panther, Spider-Man were fucking great. The movie made sense within the MCU, and it was better than the Civil War comics. So I fucking love this shit.
Well, that's a bold claim right there. Better than the Civil War comics. Yep. Wow. All right. We also have Broken Games HD here with us tonight.
What's going on, everybody? Yeah, I know me from Weapon Wheel Podcast. So, Civil War was very entertaining. I can't lie. I did want it to be a little bit more dark in certain spots when they were fighting. You know, I felt like they were a little bit too cheery. I know it was like technically a friendly fight in some senses, but I wanted it to be a little bit, darker in the fight scene. But there was a lot of suspense, a lot of build up towards it, great dialogue between the characters that, just really fit. And even though they were fighting, that you were able to see that they were friends, and this was a civil war.
Mm-hmm. And my thing with the movie is just, I thought this was the greatest comic book movie of all time. And by that, I'm not saying that it's the best comic book property that exists. I'm saying that this movie felt like reading a comic book, where there's a lot of background stuff that's happened, and you got to read the back issues for that. Like, you got to go through and watch the other movies so you finally know what's coming up. And it felt like it was a culmination of all the prior movies finally doing a payoff for the story, that it finally was coming together and it meant something. But it's the greatest one because it is that background. Anybody could show up in this movie. Anything can happen in this movie, and I was so happy watching. I've seen it twice, and normally I watch a movie one time in the theater, and then I might not even watch it again. Like, I watched Winter Soldier one time in the theater, and then I watched it again on Blu-ray later, and that was it. I don't go for a second run. I don't go for a second one. But this is the only movie where I've come back and seen it a second time in the same weekend, no less.
Wow.
So yeah. We got a lot of stuff to cover, a lot of stuff about this movie. So again, this is a spoiler cast, and I gotta say this because someone's not gonna listen. We are talking about spoilers for this movie, so if you have not seen the movie, do not watch this. Don't spoil yourself for it. Go out and watch the movie. Don't listen to us. Go watch it.
And then watch this, after you watch the movie.
Yeah, then watch it afterwards, clearly. I thought that was kind of like assumed.
yeah. Listen, some people need to, be told exactly what happens, Yeah, go watch the movie, then come back and watch us.
All right, so first off, let's talk about the plot. Let's start talking about the plot. General gist of things. This movie takes place about, what is it?
About a year, I think.
About a year after Ultron, after Age of Ultron. It's actually, the MCU's operating in real time.
Yeah.
I found this out, except for Ant-Man, which they kind of get into later. This movie is, it's interesting because it takes place, it has Cap's Avenger team, which is Black Widow, which we were actually introduced into with the Age of Ultron. And it's like Black Widow, War Machine, Falcon, who else is there?
Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch, yep, Scarlet Witch. And they are kind of doing like an underground mission, and there's a fuck up. There's a big fuck up, and they actually show Crossbones for a bit. So just real quick, what did you guys think of that opening scene, the opening action scene with Crossbones?
I thought it was pretty cool. It pretty much showed their training in combination because we know they've been training together and working together. So it shows what happens, when their synergy is right and how they function as a team. So, it was definitely pretty cool to see that, Cap leading them and everything. So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it because, after you saw Age of Ultron, like that final scene made me go, oh, fuck, I want to see that team kicking ass. So I'm glad that this movie began that way, And the thing I like about the Captain America movies, like, you don't really get to see this too much in the Avengers movie. You really get to see Captain America doing some crazy shit with his shield, So it was cool him, like, ricocheting it off everything. But just like Ken said, the way their kind of synergy kind of melded together and stuff, you could really tell this team has been doing this for a very long time, and they're very, very effective at it. So I really enjoyed the hell out of the scene, man.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool scene. They had some creative ways that they sort of took down the enemies and kind of worked together. My only real issue with the scene was it kind of sucked that Crossbones got killed off so quickly. He kind of had a bit of a bitch death, which kind of sucks when he's one of Captain America's main enemies.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was. I guess they couldn't really fit him in. But other than that, I thought it was a really cool fight scene.
Yeah. And I think one of the other points is that Captain America's enemies, other than Red Skull, just kind of suck.
Yeah.
They're just boring. I can never really get into them so much. I mean, they get like Batroc the Leaper. Oh no!
Yeah, all his enemies are pretty much boiled down to
Nazis,
magical Nazis that are still alive. Through some type of power. The Baron. Red Skull. And an AIM, technically, right? I think.
Yeah.
The AIM soldiers, and that's pretty much it.
Yep. I mean, there's a couple things like that, but one thing that I do like, you just brought this up that the Captain America movies do, a lot of his stuff is stealth. Like a lot of the missions that he does are stealth. Like the beginning of Winter Soldier was them infiltrating the boat, and this one was them. They were staking out this police station in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm sorry, and they were staking this place out, and they were like going undercover until they had to go stop this battering ram of Crossbones like going out, like or something like an infectious disease or something. And we actually get our first major plot point from the comic book. He's Nitro, essentially.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
he is the Nitro of this. That's true.
Wait, you mean Winter Soldier?
No, Civil War. Crossbones blows himself up, and in the comic, the way it worked was Speedball's going after Nitro with his New Warriors group.
Yeah, and that's what causes it.
Nitro takes mutant growth hormone and then explodes and kills a bunch of children at an elementary school. And in this one, it's they change it to Crossbones explodes trying to kill Captain America as revenge for the ends of Winter Soldier. Yeah. And Wanda actually contains the explosion and then kind of throws him up in the air, because she can't contain the explosion for long, and it blows up and it takes out this side of a building, and it kills 20 people or something like that.
Yeah, half of them are like Wakandans too.
Yeah, half Wakandan. We'll get into that a little bit later.
What I actually thought was going to happen was I thought they were actually still going to use Nitro, but at the part where T'Chaka dies. I thought they were going to use Nitro there, but yeah, they didn't do that.
Yeah, but it started the conversation. It started the conversation where people started pointing out, and they blame Wanda. The news media blames Wanda for not his explosion, but rather that she couldn't contain it, and that was a big deal. That it started the conversation, and it wasn't really the tragedy itself, but it started the discussion, and you have that Nitro character in there doing something and starting a larger problem. So that scene was pretty good. It was a really enjoyable fight scene, but like I said, it was more.
It showed that they were still especially Wanda, Scarlet Witch, that she's still technically new to this, and she's still in training. So those type of mistakes are made. Like others more experienced, you hardly really see Cap make a mistake like that. He's real experienced and cautious, but somebody like Wanda, she's still in training, so there's gonna be mistakes and there's gonna be casualties, and it shows that it's not just like perfect every time they go on some type of mission.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Cap has his Martha moment. Like, and he addresses it. That was like such a surreal thing, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, how did they know Batman versus Superman was gonna pull that kind of moment? Like, he says that because Crossbones mentions Bucky and he freezes up, and he doesn't react to the bomb, and he freezes up, and he after a while, right afterwards, he goes and sees Wanda and says, like, he just mentioned Bucky and I froze, I wasn't ready for it, and it was like, wow.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little funny. But so continuing on with the movie, what happens after this point is they come back and there's a discussion about something called the Sokovia Accords, which is basically the Superhuman Registration Act, and it has General Ross, who hasn't been in a movie since Incredible Hulk,
Yeah,
which
man.
people even forget is a part of the MCU, which they bring him back. And
cool.
yeah. So real quick, so the Sokovia Accords. What did you guys think about this adaptation, this change?
Yeah, I mean, basically, because it's like they had that one fuck up, but then they they put it in the context of, hey, every time you guys go out on a mission, people die, and now they've tolerated you up until this point. We can't have this anymore, so we need to have you accountable. It's different than the Superhuman Registration Act, where that was like, okay, you need to reveal your secret identities and register. With this one, everybody knows all the secret identities already. There are no secret identities in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, except for Spider-Man and Daredevil, essentially, So they couldn't do it that way. So what we got instead was like, I guess it's the equivalent of like, just making them soldiers for hire, but what is it, accountable to the United States, but they really answer to the world. So that was the bit of a change from the Superhuman Registration Act, and I thought it worked well within the confines of the MCU, because again, there's no such things as secret identities really in this universe.
Yeah, there aren't really secret identities. Like, I mean, like, and even Spider-Man, like, he technically registered to work for Tony in the first place. He technically did. But he didn't, like, reveal his identity to anybody. It was more just like, yeah, I'm accountable.
Yeah, but think about it like this, right? Remember how in the comics when he took off his mask, everybody's like, oh my god, that's him? If he would do this in the movie, they'd be like, okay, he's just a fucking kid. No one would know who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was saying, the reason why I think it works better here is because it makes more sense in the context of the of this, because it's more just sort of applying to the Avengers as opposed to some sort of broad thing.
Yeah.
Because if it was some sort of broad thing, it doesn't work as well, because it works in the comics because you've got hundreds of characters you can work with, whereas here you've only got like 10 to 15. So this one makes a lot more sense in the context of the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things like that. And so moving on a little bit more, they put down the Sokovia Accords and the Avengers discuss it, and the lines are clearly drawn kind of loosely. Caps is against signing up, mostly because his argument is that if you sign up, you're basically shifting the blame of who performed what action to the World Council, to the world community, and what if they're used for something that they can't respond to? Like, what if there's something that's happening in one part of the world, but they don't tell them to act, and they want to act in order for the greater good, but they can't, or their power could be abused by being accountable to a world government. And Tony in particular, I thought this was really funny. I didn't know anybody else would pick it up, and I told Tony about this. Did you realize that the actress who guilts Tony into going with registration is the same actress from Grace Cooley from Scrooged?
Yeah, man. When you point out, I'm like, oh, because I saw him like this woman, because I haven't seen Scrooge for years, right? So I'm looking at this woman like, she looks familiar to me. I've seen her before. And then you point it out, I'm like, oh shit, that's where her son went. He went to Sokovia and got killed.
The good thing that they did, with choosing side, they actually gave each character like a legit reason why they chose, the sides. Some just had loyalty to. They had loyalty to like who they were friends with, but they also had their own reasoning.
Yeah.
Like they showed Tony's guilt and everything from Sokovia, with the mother losing her son and everything, and that made it kind of blurred the lines to where you may have went in like, yeah, I'm team this and nothing's gonna change my mind. I still didn't change, my side, but it at least provoked that thought in your head to why, okay, I can see where they're coming from and I can see why they would, want to sign this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on that, like that's what I, loved about this movie, and one of the reasons why I actually like this more than the comic book, right? Because in the comic book Civil War, they promise you, okay, you're gonna have two sides, and they're both equally matched. It wasn't exactly like that. Basically, in the comic books, if you read the entirety of it, not just the core book, it was very clear that Captain America's side was the good guys, Tony Stark's side were evil, right? It was very apparent that was the case. With the movie, even now, I'm like, I don't know who I side with. Like, they both make really strong, compelling arguments, and that's the way it should be. It should be morally ambiguous like that. Like the comic where it was just like, okay, these guys have a concentration camp, they're fucking evil, or they're killing Thor or some shit like that,
Well,
We were actually just talking about that.
Yeah, the thing with me was when it came to the way that they did it here, I think it made more sense because when I was reading the comics, I was like, why did Tony not just say to the woman who was getting angry at him, like, you're a fucking idiot, I didn't kill those kids, so why are you blaming me for it? As opposed to, you were literally in this location and you helped drop the building, or something like that. So it actually means that he was partially responsible for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he it's not all his fault, but I think when they look at the amount of damage there, it's hard to defend. They've saved plenty of lives, but they've also caused a lot of destruction. I don't know. It just makes me remember, like, back in the day when you used to watch Power Rangers and like those fights. In the Megazord, you used to destroy like 1,000 fucking buildings. I'm like, yo, who's paying for this shit? So it kind of reminds me of that. Like, yeah, they saved, but like, what did you destroy in exchange for all those things you saved? Like, if you save 1,000 lives, and one person dies because of it, that person is still gonna, hate you for that. That person's family is still gonna hate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and have they ever established if like the MCU has their version of damage control from the comics? Because
They have not mentioned that.
yeah, because you figure they would have something like that. For you guys who don't know, Damage Control was basically an organization that cleaned up after superhero fights and stuff after it was all over.
Yeah, they get the government contract to clean up.
Yeah,
they make a lot of money. And actually, that was one of the subplots of the Civil War. You have Wolverine tracking down Nitro to find out who gave him the mutant growth hormone to increase his power range, and finds out it's actually the CEO of Damage Control who wanted there to be bigger casualties, bigger explosions, and bigger damage altogether. So that way, their contracts would make more money because they were getting more damage out of the way.
Makes sense.
that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff that's kind of like that in the movie in particular, but it's kind of out there. I'd like to see it be more of like a mini series, like after a major movie, after there's been a lot of destruction, you just have Damage Control the mini.
Yeah, right.
I think it'd be really funny just seeing like random stuff, like at the end of Thor: Dark World with like that random like beast monster is just running around. Have like a whole mini series about them just catching that, or just random things walking around. I think it'd be hilarious. But kind of moving on though, we got a lot of stuff to cover. So they introduced T'Challa because the Sokovia Accords are actually introduced by Wakanda, who's been like a relatively secluded nation, and until recently, and a bunch of the people who were killed in the explosion by Scarlet Witch were Wakandans. So we get our first real glimpse at T'Chaka, who's the king of Wakanda, and T'Challa, who is the Black Panther. What did you guys think about T'Challa? Did you like him? Did you not like, or just the whole movie wise?
He's just a really powerful character. I was like surprised at like how much shine they actually gave him. It was even in some ways a setup for the Black Panther movie. I was like, yo, this is a lot of setting up and introducing of T'Challa. It almost seemed like they did it because, okay, like when that Black Panther movie comes around, is like they don't want to spend that time, on the on too much formalities and introduction. Like I think they got a lot of it out the way. People learned about Black Panther, learned about his characteristics, and they just portrayed him as a badass. It was accurate. His fighting style, the costume looked awesome.
It did.
They just really developed him really well in short bursts of dialogue that you like. Oh, I know this guy. It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I pretty much agree with that. I thought he was pretty cool. In terms of like the costume and he was really intimidating when you saw him on screen. That was something that I thought was really good that they nailed about him. Was when you saw him on screen and when he flicks out the claws, you're like, oh damn, this guy's like, he's not messing around. He's serious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I really liked about him was like he really captured that essence of being regal but being a warrior at the same time, right? Those two aspects, they perfectly melded, and he just had that air about him. And Black Panther, he's been one of my favorite characters like almost my entire life. So seeing him, like on screen, and not only like was he good, he was not good, he was fantastic. Like that's the dude from the comics. He was great. I loved his fighting style. I loved even the accent. I loved all of that, man. And just like you guys were saying, it's like now when we get the Black Panther movie, we won't have to deal with all that setup. You remember the guy from Civil War? This is that dude, Oh man, I was so excited.
And I like that, because Black Panther, we know him, especially in the comics. He's not like a vengeful person necessarily. Like that's not how he acts off. So I was interested to see how they were going to end it and how they were going to like change him, because that's not who he is. He's very peaceful, he's kind of turn the other cheek kind of person. Obviously he wasn't like that. If someone killed your father, you have a reason not to be. So it was just so good how they ended the movie, and kind of changed, and he learned obviously from how the movie ended that that's not how he should be. So it was a lot of character development for a movie, for one character in a movie full of superheroes. They were able to get a lot of character development there.
Yeah, and it was great because you got to see both sides of it. Like basically, I mean, skipping ahead a little bit, you saw what Vengeance did to Baron Zemo, right, and consumed him and led him down that path. And T'Challa sees this, and he's like, I'm not gonna let Vengeance consume me. You're gonna pay, but you're gonna pay the right way. I'm not gonna kill you, because he was getting ready. You saw my man put that helmet down real quiet. He was ready to fuck this dude up. But then he was like, you know what? After hearing this story, he's like, oh shit, yeah, I don't want to go down that path either. So you're right. There's a lot of character development for a guy who essentially got maybe like less than 30 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
For almost 30 minutes. I mean, that was the thing. They're going to use this movie as a jumping off point for a lot of different stuff. One aspect I liked about him is that they did remain true to the character. My one nitpick, and it's more of like a personal preference thing. It's I like the ruthless warrior king vibe. That's what I love about Black Panther. The problem was with this one, it's such an early point in his career where I think he's been the Black Panther for a little bit, but he hasn't been like a king at all. So I mean, he's fresh. He's new at it. And so by the end of the movie, I was getting that vibe, but it took a while to get that.
All right.
So that's my
but we'll fully get that in his own movie.
Oh yeah, I have no doubts about him going forward.
Yeah.
So other than that, so what happens? They have the signing event. Also, first of all, Peggy Carter dies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
And that was emotional.
Yeah.
Because they took his classic line and gave it to Peggy for that their eulogy thing with Sharon Carter delivering that line. And it was if the whole world is against you and they tell you to move, you tell them no, you move. And I was like, oh, I got goosebumps. And it actually worked coming from her as well. It carried the same emotional weight. It kind of gave Cap more of a motivation to stay the way he was.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see what else is there. So right after that, they go to the signing, and at the signing they have there's an explosion, and it's identified to be Bucky Barnes, who's the cause of the explosion, and the Winter Soldier's back. At least that was the idea behind it. But in reality, it turns out to be Zemo. But it starts this manhunt for Bucky. And that was a pretty interesting deal. What did you guys think of that turn of events? Did you guys think did you actually think it was Bucky?
No, I knew straight away that it was that other guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw from earlier parts that Bucky was sort of reforming. That he was sort of becoming a reformed character. So when I saw that, I was like, why would he do that? He has no reason to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious it was all set up. You know, I didn't think for a second it was really Bucky doing it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not at all. It just seemed pretty, too obvious because they showed him the mask there. I'm like, of course, the vague mask, the implication that it could be somebody else. So yeah, didn't think it was him at all.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like really doubting it per se. But like, I was like, oh, maybe he did it. Maybe, who knows? Maybe the programming, because the whole thing about the beginning of the movie was that they showed Bucky can be controlled by these like certain key words.
Right.
That was like maybe they got because the guy Zemo gets a control of the book with the control words, and I was like maybe he got a hold of him and like forced him to do it. Like, I don't know. I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, I didn't think that was him. If there was certain things like you could tell, that he might have did if he was under control. That didn't seem to be one of them. It didn't match up with the timing, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So also just kind of skipping through the plot a little bit. There's a lot of twists and turns, a lot of chases. Eventually, we get to the point where there's a line in the sand drawn, and the teams meet up, and it's one of the biggest fight scenes in the movie. It's the airport scene, and actually, before we get to that, let's skip through that. Actually, what did you guys think about the conclusion of the plot? 'Cause I want to come back to that in a separate segment.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about...
What do you think overall about the comparison?
Yeah, I mean, I actually want to talk about Zemo because it kind of ties into it. Because, let's face it, many of the Marvel Cinematic Universe villains have not really been that good. They haven't really been engaging. I thought this villain was actually great because you understood where he was coming from, and at the same time, his motivation seemed like realistic. He's like, I can't beat these guys. I don't have that kind of power, so I'm going to try to destroy them from within. And go ahead.
Just to clarify, Zemo, this was Helmet Zemo, right? Wasn't this Zemo the son of the original Baron? Wasn't it?
No, I don't think there's any relation. I think it's just it was just Helmet Zemo. I think they just chose the name.
Yeah, I think he's just Zemo in name because he's like, there was no Sokovia in the comics,
Okay.
But yeah, what I liked about it is like, remember earlier in the movie you had what's her face? She's obviously angry that the Avengers killed her son. She's not doing anything about it really, right? But this guy's like, I am going to do something about it. He's like the living manifestation of all that anger that people are feeling towards the Avengers, and he's the embodiment of that. And I thought that was really, really good. And even when at the end when you kind of heard about his story, you actually felt like sympathetic towards him. Like, damn, man, you're right. That's kind of fucked up that the Avengers essentially get to do all this shit without really answering to anyone, So it was bound to, come back to bite them eventually. So I thought he was a great villain, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I liked him because he was manipulative. And he's the only real MCU villain who actually won.
Yeah, he did. Remember, I forgot the guy's name, but Bilbo, right? He's like, oh, how does it feel knowing that you lost? And he's like, did I?
Yeah, I love that part because it's true. Because even though by the end of it they'd sort of wrapped, they weren't as angry at each other as they were before. They were split apart. They weren't the same team anymore.
Yeah, he was a cerebral villain, by intelligence, not brute force like you usually have. It was manipulation, intelligence, intellect, and he was one of those. So It was
Yeah.
definitely a different tone of villain. It was good.
Yeah, and I like what he did at the end too, because he tricked them. He was like, "Okay, I have these 5 Winter Soldiers. I'm gonna unleash them on the world," and that's what you thought it was going down. But no,
Yeah.
he that was all a setup so he could show him how Tony Stark's parents were actually killed. Like if the team wasn't already dissolved, this really killed the team right there.
Yeah.
If there was that point where Tony Stark, he said, like, okay, Steve, we're going to talk about this. We're going to set this right. Then he sees that video of Bucky killing his parents, and that's it. It was over. It was, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think ultimately the plot of the movie it wasn't like the super cerebral thing entirely. You could follow it, and it's hard to make a huge political thriller that actually kind of makes sense like this. But I mean, it wasn't like this super complicated, like you need a magnifying glass and a law degree to understand what was going on.
Yeah.
But it was pretty. It was still enjoyable. It wasn't. It took enough turns where I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, and
it was good because even people that one of the reasons why I think these Marvel comics are so in the Marvel universe why they're so successful is because it appeals and people who are not comic book fans understand. Like the Civil War, you could have never read the comics, never knew nothing about it, and you still understood why they were fighting. You still understood the problem and the conflict. So it appeals to those type of people. It's simple.
yeah.
we shouldn't forget to talk about Spider-Man. I hope we.
We're coming back to him. He deserves his own stuff. So I kind of want to do one thing before we actually no we'll get into some of the characters first. Real quick, just as a general poll, what was your favorite character in this movie? We'll just go down the line. If you can only pick one character, gun to your head, your favorite character in this movie. Let's do Tony.
Fuck, man. Because it's obviously between Black Panther and Spider-Man. I could only pick one, right? Shit. Fuck, you got me, man. I don't know how to answer this. I guess okay. Here's the thing. I want to say Spider-Man, but I really know I should say T'Challa. I'm gonna go with. All right, I'll go with Black Panther.
Can we pick a runner-up too? Can we pick one?
I'll let you pick a runner-up.
Yeah, okay. So Black Panther.
There's a lot of characters like that. This movie was really hard to have just one standout character.
Yeah. Well, there is one character that made this movie better than Winter Soldier for me, but we'll get to that later when we discuss the airport scene. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Black Panther #1 and then Spider-Man runner-up.
All right, BG.
Yeah, Black Panther #1. See, I really like Captain America and Winter Soldier. I feel like Winter Soldier is almost like a Captain America clone in a sense, in the way that they fight. In a lot of ways, personality. So, and I did really like Spider-Man. I did, but I gotta go with like Black Panther #1, and I'm gonna go to Winter Soldier too. There's just something about like that character that just really interests me.
Move your seat up, man. Remember that part? That shit was funny, man.
Oh my gosh! Like, there's a particular scene where like they're kind of setting up for the airport scene, and like, first all three of them, Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Captain America roll up in a VW Bug.
Crazy.
It's like Bucky's sitting in the back. If you ever been a Bug before, there's no leg room whatsoever. And he asks Falcon, "Can you move your seat up?" And Falcon just looking so pissed. He's like, "No."
No. It was great.
It was so funny. It was like Falcon and Winter Soldier were like siblings or something. It was just so funny to watch.
They got a love-hate thing, Cause
there's a scene where Cap kisses Sharon Carter, and he does a quick flip to the VW Bug, and then they're
oh yeah.
Yeah,
that was.
I mean, the whole thing with him and Sharon Carter was a little bit weird to me, because technically you're hitting on your ex-girlfriend's granddaughter. Was it granddaughter or daughter?
Niece.
Niece.
It's a little bit creepy. You got to admit.
Yeah.
It's a little bit weird.
Yeah.
It's like time travel cheating or some shit.
Well, she's
Well, it's not
dead,
cheating,
you
she's
know.
dead.
Yeah, she's
Right.
dead.
You're right. It was just a little weird for me, but like I'm not mad at him. I would have done the same thing, you know. It was a little weird.
Yeah. I thought that was hilarious. The movie's funny when it needs to be just to give it that levity. But at the same time, it's a very deep movie. Um, so, all right. For me, well, Friggy, your turn. What was your favorite?
Number one was probably Spider-Man, and number two was Ant-Man, I'd say.
Yep. Number one for me is gotta be Ant-Man. I love, like, I watched the Ant-Man movie and I was like, I'm gonna go into this a little skeptical. I came out, I was like, he's one of my top 5 MCU characters. But after this movie, my God. So his comedy, it's so funny because it's like he knows this is a comic book movie and he's just being ridiculous. Like in the fight scene when he well, first of all, there's the thing they show in the one of the sneak peek things when he's introduced to Captain America for the first time. He's like shaking. He's like, "Oh my gosh, Captain America!" He's just like holding that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're too long. It's like you're Captain America. It turns out like, oh, like the Scarlet Witch. Oh, I know you too. You're great. And he just keeps going. He's like, then it starts feeling his chest and feels his arms, and it's like,
He's total fanboy.
Yeah.
The only thing about Ant-Man is I would have preferred it to actually be not Scott Lang, but actually Hank Pym. Then I think I would have nerded out more. Like I still like Scott Lang, but you know Hank Pym I would have nerded out more if they actually chose him to be Ant-Man.
mm-hmm.
I could agree with that. But Scott Lang was pretty funny though, and then like you said, Giant Man, dude. That's when I'm like, okay, I like this better than Winter Soldier because I was on the fence. I was like, okay, this movie is just as good as Winter Soldier.
I'm so glad they didn't spoil that in the trailer.
Oh yes,
that was so great when he went giant. I was like, oh my god, I'm in love.
Like they did it. They're actually doing this. They're actually doing this.
Dude, that was the one moment when like in the theater I went to. I've seen the movie twice. In both times. That was the one time in the movie where people start doing a standing ovation when he goes giant. Oh my gosh, it was just like unbelievable. It was like people were like, yes, finally clapping everywhere, and it was just like, oh my god, this is so cool. He suddenly became relevant in that one moment. But I love his comedy because there's the scene when like after Spidey steals the shield away from Cap, and Ant-Man gets it back, and he hands it back to him. It's like, here's your shield, Captain America.
Yes.
It's like the whole name.
It's like, wow.
And of course they did the classic Hawkeye shot.
Yes.
With him. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, all right. Let's start talking about the fight scenes. There are a lot of great choreographed fight scenes in this movie. There's I think it's actually the same guys who did John Wick. They came in for this movie for some of the fights. It definitely shows.
Yeah, I mean, what I liked about the whole fight scene was like it was nice to see, essentially the Avengers beating up on things that weren't just CG monsters or robots. You know what I'm saying? It's like usually it's just them either they fought the Chitauri and they fought Ultron, right? But now they're actually fighting real people, which means they had to cut down on some of the CG stuff, which made it look more realistic. You know, I thought it was great, and I like how there was so much going on, but you were still able to follow it all clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I like how they switched, who they were fighting wasn't just one person fighting one the other person the whole time. You got to see the different clashes and how how that turned out. So you got to see the dynamics between what would happen if this person fought this person, everything like that, which was really good.
Yeah, and I think one of the great parts about it is that it's so mixed on who's fighting who, and people are fighting with different levels here. Like you had Hawkeye fights Black Panther. Not Black Panther. Hawkeye fights Black Widow. And that fight was more of like we just happen to be on the wrong side this time. Like, we're not really going out for each other. Like, they're pulling punches. They're just like, we're just kind of fighting. It's nothing personal. Like, they even joke about it. But then you got people like Winter Soldier and Black Panther, which are going for
Oh
blood.
man.
Oh yeah.
Like they want to kill. Like they're done. Like we do not want. Like, we're not dealing with this shit. But like other people are like we're fighting to subdue, and it was all over the board, and it all worked. I didn't feel like I was confused about who was fighting who and what ideologies were clashing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Black Panther was definitely like he didn't have any gloves on. He was trying to take heads off. Now Spider-Man, right? How old did they have him in this? In this
I
movie?
think he's 15.
Yeah, he's like 15.
15. What I liked about it, like I love to see comic book like accuracy, right? And when even though obviously he's young, he's still Spider-Man and he has the real enhanced strength. When he stopped Winter Soldier's punch, which is not fucking easy, and he just looked like it was nothing, which is comic book accurate. Spider-Man could stop a punch from somebody like Winter Soldier, which I love that.
Yep, and the best part about that though is he did that, and then instead of just doing like a really cool scene, he's just like, "Oh my dude, you got a metal arm? That's so cool!" And he just talks and talks.
Yeah, he talks and talks and talks like, "Hey kid, is this your first fight? We don't usually do this much talking." I'm like, "Thank you," because that was my problem with the other Spider-Mans. I'm just being real right now. They never like acted like the actual Spider-Man from the books, where he just talks all the fucking time, So I love that they threw that in there, and just like you said, like he's holding his arm, he's surprised that actually he's not surprised. He's like, "Oh dude, you got a metal arm." Bucky's like, "How the fuck are you doing this to my arm, dude?" Because as he's holding his arm, he's actually pulling it away. You notice that, right? That takes considerable strength too,
Right.
But yeah, you're right. That's
and then he says like when he's chasing Falcon and Winter Soldier for the first time, he's running over. It's like, "You have the right to remain silent." It's like, oh my god.
Oh my
god, that was so funny.
Dude, I know it was only like 5 minutes, but to me that was like the best interpretation of Spider-Man on film. They finally got him right, because I always had a problem with the other Spider-Mans. I really did. Even told me I had a problem with all of them. This one I'm like, oh my god, this is the guy, man.
Yeah, it's just funny how they tried it their way with like a culmination of 5 movies, and you give it to Marvel for like half a movie and they get the fucking right. Y'all motherfuckers did this 5 times and didn't get it pinpoint. Marvel had it for 30 minutes. Look what they did.
That's true.
Oh my gosh! Okay, let's talk about the other aspect of Spider-Man real quick. Before we get it, let's talk about the costume. Okay, so we saw the costume for the trailer, and it did not look good in the trailer, but in the movie, I actually liked it. It fit together with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It didn't feel like it was just ripped from the comics. They adapted it a little bit, but it worked. It looked great.
Yeah, I mean, I love the costume from the first time we saw it, so seeing it in the movie was even better. Like, again, like you got to, like, even the way, it's gonna sound silly, even the way, like, just the way his neck, like, kind of formed to his head and stuff, I'm like, oh my god, that's how it is in the books too, It just looks so correct, but at the same time, just like you said, it also fits with the MCU. It's not a 100% exact costume from the comics. There's like it looks like a black line going around his arms and stuff. The Tony Stark tech, obviously. I thought it was great, man. It looked really, really good. And I love the eyes, how they open and close. And I was very interested, by the way, just to sidetrack a little bit. This is something that's never mentioned in the comics. He says he needed to put these eye things on because his senses were too much. He needed something to like kind of filter them out. Like, oh, that's new. That's interesting.
That's new, and it made sense. Like, okay, Spider-Man's powers are ridiculous. His senses are out crazy. And I think one of the things about it, like you see this in the after credits scene, they kind of set up that like his powers are going to evolve. He's not done.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a spider sense. If you notice this, like he gets beat.
Yeah, that's true.
He had spider sense, he would have been protected by from Red Wing, but he didn't. He got knocked out. He does not have spider sense, but he's still learning.
Yeah, I didn't realize it, but you're right. He doesn't have spider sense in this. Wow. Yeah, I guess because remember they said he's only been at it for 6 months, so he is definitely still learning.
It's like it might be that because like it helps him focus. It's actually tuning out his spider sense.
Yeah, maybe. He has to learn how to balance it out, I guess.
Yeah, and also at the end when he's like talking about the wristband thing he's got on, He says this is itchy, and he's scratching his wrists, like, ugh, like this doesn't feel right. Like this, he might do like the Evolve or Die storyline or something kind of like that, where he literally has got to change. Like he's going to evolve and become a more of a literal Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought his costume was dope. I also the other change I thought was interesting because traditionally Spider-Man lived in a home with Aunt May. He lives in an apartment with Aunt May, which is actually more realistic if you think about it. It's a single woman with a kid, probably can't afford a big home, It should look like the projects actually. Like, yeah, you got to live in the projects, Kind of makes sense.
And Aunt May was hot.
Oh my God!
Yeah, she was.
Man. Like when they said Marissa Tomei was gonna be her, I'm like, that's gonna be a fine ass Aunt May, and you saw her in the movie. Woo! Even Tony Stark was like, you have an unusually attractive aunt.
Yep.
So I'm like, yo, does that mean Uncle Ben's fucking Joe Pesci?
They didn't mention Uncle Ben, which is because I thought Peter would have mentioned him when the part where Tony was asking him, why he does this. I thought he would have alluded to Uncle Ben. He kind of did, but he didn't mention his actual name. And I was like, I'm all right with that because I'm tired of hearing about Uncle Ben, honestly, at this point.
Yeah.
It's like having to see Batman's parents getting killed over.
Yeah, like we already know.
Again.
Yeah, I love how they told his origin without telling his origin. It's like,
and they didn't have to say with great power comes great responsibility.
I was waiting for it too, but they didn't do it. Yeah, I thought that was fun. Just the way him and Tony Stark played off each other and stuff. I thought that was fun because I kind of feel that Tony Stark saw Peter Parker as like a younger version of himself. You know what I mean? Like he's like, okay, he's this really smart kid and stuff, but he doesn't have the means, so let me try to help him out.
The interesting thing about that, though, when he asks him, why do you do this? He gives a Captain America response.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I'm out here looking for the little guy. I'm trying to help. If someone doesn't help, it's my fault, and I got to do something about it.
Yeah, that was interesting.
He's this Captain America response, and I'm like,
Yeah. Can we mention the part where Vision tries to shoot down Falcon, but he hits Rhodey?
Yeah.
What was so interesting about I think why it was so important for Vision to make that mistake, because everything with Vision is calculated.
Yeah.
Right. So he obviously didn't see that that happening. To him, everything is just binary, numbers and math. So that kind of opened up his eyes to see that mistakes can be made. Everything is not as clear as his calculations make it out to be. So I think that's how his eyes were opened in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to me, I felt like he was thrown off a bit because remember he was trying to take care of Wanda, and we all know how their history goes in the comics. So I was wondering if that's starting to manifest even more so in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and actually that's a good point. Did anyone else notice the adaptation of the Fantastic Four story arc from Civil War was suddenly implanted on Vision and Wanda?
Oh, you mean Reed Richards?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Because neither of them were actually in Civil War, because Disney doesn't have the rights to Fantastic Four. They actually took that story arc and put it on Scarlet Witch and Vision.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that, but you're actually 100% right about that.
Because Reed is super calculated. He looked at it like an equation. And Vision actually it suggests let's look at it like the equation. And he goes off talking about why this happens and this happens. This is the best This is the best possible scenario. But we need to do this in order to prevent something worse from happening down the line. And he does the exact same thing. And he acts just like Reed. He's overprotective of Sue. He does actions without her consent. He makes decisions to protect her. And ultimately, she rebels. She leaves. And they split up.
Right.
Yeah, great point.
Got a lot of
Think of that.
BG.
Oh, me?
Yeah, we got to get some echo.
All right, my bad. We're good now?
Yeah, we should be good now. All right. So that was just something I noticed, and I thought it was interesting. And I think they do actually a really good job of adapting Vision in this one. Because Vision in Age of Ultron, I didn't really get a good vibe of him, but in this movie, they give him more time, and he feels like an actual character now.
Yeah, and he feels more like Vision, you know.
Yeah, it was his effort to humanize himself and try to blend in and understand, cultures and everything like that. It kind of had like that, that early Thor vibe where I'm not familiar with this, culture and everything like that. So yeah, it was good they tried to humanize him.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the change. It made him better because I always liked Vision as a character. I always really enjoyed him, but he just didn't stand out just yet. But this one definitely helped, and he feels like a character now.
Yeah, and plus you got to see more of his like abilities and stuff. A lot of phasing going on, you know, like especially when he was fighting Hawkeye, you know, in the apartment. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it also, we also got to see, Scarlett's, how powerful she actually is, because she is one of the powerhouses, in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Yep. Oh, and one thing I wanted to point out because I saw people saying that Scarlet Witch. People were saying, in the scene where she's breaking out with Hawkeye, she pushed him. She pushed him down. No, she changed the mind gem.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
She was manipulating the gem because what you could see is because Vision has a hold on Hawkeye. He makes her. No, I'm saying she makes him go decrease the density, so Hawkeye's able to walk out of him, and then she makes him super dense, so he literally falls through the earth.
Yeah, and the ability to manipulate a gem, one of these things is going to be the Infinity Stone, is a big deal. It really shows a lot of power.
Yeah, because we all know what Wanda's capable of, literally rearranging reality. So it'll be interesting if they could play that up. Wasn't that the reality gem too? Which gem was that?
I'm not even sure anymore.
I can't remember.
I'm getting confused.
But yeah, I think
it was a Mind Stone. It was a Mind Stone because
it
came from Loki's scepter.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see her powers fully manifest in with the next Avengers movie. You can't even call it Infinity War. They're going to change the title of it now. But yeah, I think we're definitely going to see her really shine. It's going to be crazy.
I think it's going to be actually that's a really good point to bring in. What does this mean for the MCU? Because at the end of the movie, you got Cap with his Secret Avengers, which is now comprises of Ant-Man, basically all his whole team, Hawkeye, Black Widow now. Who else is there? Falcon and Black Panther's now joined, and Thor and Hulk are still out there. Like they're not coming back right now. So the question is, because of Tony's side, because Tony's now given control of the Avengers, and he's got a paralyzed War Machine, and a insecure robot, and a 16-year-old.
With War Machine, I think pretty much they're just gonna invent. He'll be all right. They're just gonna invent those prosthetics, mechanical prosthetics that he can still walk fine again. So I'm not even worried about him. With the tech that Tony has. Yeah.
I remember specifically when I saw the trailer, I was like, he's definitely going to get crippled. I knew before the movie came out that he wasn't going to die and that he would get crippled.
Yeah, they were
when that happened.
They would show a killing in a trailer.
In the movie trailer, exactly.
Yeah, but the thing is, even though they didn't kill him, I still feel that was necessary because you have this big ass battle. There needs to be some kind of casualty,
Yeah.
So that definitely, he was essentially Giant Man from, but he didn't get killed. He didn't get shot through the chest. From the comic books, if you guys remember that. He was the one that died.
Right.
But yeah, like you said, they could easily bring back you can't walk properly, just stay in the fucking suit. It'll walk for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know, because the real question is Tony's got to assemble his Avengers.
Yeah.
Who is he gonna get? Because the movies we got coming out next is Black Panther, who's not on his team. You got Doctor Strange, who likely won't be joining Tony because in every instance he says I'm kind of busy, like interdimensional shit.
Yeah.
I kind of have bigger issues than this, so I'm probably not going to register.
Yeah, I mean, when is Miss Marvel, not Miss Marvel, the Captain Marvel movie coming out? Which side is she gonna
That's
join?
coming out in
she-
2019.
Actually, it's after Infinity War.
Okay, after. Okay, that's what,
No,
maybe
but
they.
she's going to be in Infinity War, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they can introduce her there because now, yeah, like you said before, now we essentially have the new Avengers and the Secret Avengers. But I still believe in Infinity War. Let's just call it Infinity War because that's what we know it as. They're gonna band together because remember Steve left him that. Yeah, remember Steve left him that phone. The flip phone. It's like if you need me, just give me a call. So they're definitely have to band together, especially when Thanos is coming knocking at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one interesting thing we do have to talk about is that who is he going to get? Because there's nobody else. Every other movie that's coming out, like I think it's Guardians of the Galaxy 2, they're not joining.
No.
They're not including anybody. And so I have a theory that he's going to get the Defenders.
That'd be cool.
If they finally decide to bring him into the movie, sure. Because I think they're still like kind of on the fence about that.
But with the Defenders though, that's a bit of a weird disconnect because Matt Murdock has a secret identity, and he's pretty much he acknowledges that he's acting outside the law. So it seems weird that he would come into it legally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing though is that in the later comics, by this time we're gonna have Daredevil season 3, and we're gonna have a Defender series, and we're gonna have Iron Fist, and we're gonna have Luke Cage. So everyone will have their own show at this point. And you have to remember, in the recent comics with Daredevil, everyone knows who he is.
Not anymore though. They rebooted it.
They rebooted
it.
I'm still thinking of the Matt Murdock who's running around like in a bright red suit with the cane. Like, everyone knows who I am anyway.
No, they got that. Now he's back to being, after Secret Wars, they changed all that.
Yeah. I haven't read Secret Wars yet. I'm waiting for them to be like, absolutely sure this is what we're committing to.
Well, Secret Wars is essentially over already,
I know, but I don't want to get involved in the new universe yet until they make absolutely sure that this is going to be the universe we're sticking with.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, in case because you said you haven't, they didn't really change anything. Secret Wars happened, and things just went back to normal. Like it's the same. All the shit you read before still counts. It's just there's been an 8-month gap, so we don't know how people don't know he's not. He's not a Matt Murdock anymore. But yeah, it's the same universe. Everything that happened before still counts. It's not like Crisis on Infinite Earths or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what do you think this is going to go through with? Because last time I checked, the Sokovia Accords are still in effect.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, I mean, it's all still in effect right now. We don't really know what's going to happen just yet, like in terms of the future.
Yeah, I still say they're going to be separate at the beginning of the next movie, and then they're going to come together when Thanos shows up.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think, Fringy, BG?
I'm not sure actually. In terms of can you rephrase it again? Like what the question was?
What do you think they're going to go with after this one? Because the Sokovia Accords are still in effect. Nothing's been changed on that end.
Nah, I'm not really sure where they're going with it. I guess that's kind of a positive thing for them that they've made something to where it's like I'm not sure where they're going to go with it. But I'm really not sure.
I think obviously Cap and them are going to continue to act outside of the Accords. I don't think like those who are for the Accords, like Tony, are necessarily going to try to stop them or anything like that. It's gonna be like kind of, listen, do your thing. We're gonna agree to disagree, and let you rock out. They're gonna agree to disagree.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure entirely. I don't think they'll half-heartedly go after them a little bit, but they won't be stressing it too much. But I mean, if there's a world disaster and they say, or not like a world disaster, more like let's say there's a volcano erupting, just something small, it's small world scale. and they call like Tony's Avengers to show up, and he shows up, but like Cap's Avengers are already there. They're probably gonna say, yeah, let's save the people first, and then we'll go after Cap, and they'll be like half-hearted, like, oh, they got away. Oops.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I mean that pretty much sums up anything else you guys want to talk about the movie before we wrap up here.
I'm sure there was something that I can't remember. Oh, there were certain things I really loved about the way that the movie was shot and how there were these certain shots that were just perfectly mimicking parts from the comic book, like that part in the final fight between Cap and Iron Man where he's shooting at him and he's blocking it with his shield. I was like smiling like such a goober when I saw that.
Yeah, references from the comic are great. I don't know. I smiled when Black Panther was on his Batman shit following Captain America. Just comes out of nowhere with the plane. I'm like, he's really followed a bit, like looking like Batman and shit. It was great. And then the end movie, of course, at the end of the movie, of course. Well, was that the post credits? No, that was the end of the movie. When
that was like the ending. Was it the first post credits sequence? I already know where you're going from because I was about to jump into that motherfucking shot of the big ass panther statue.
Oh yeah.
So there was a second post credit.
Yeah, there was a second.
Yeah,
I didn't stay for
that had Spider-Man.
Yeah, the one with Spider-Man. Yeah.
What happened? Because I didn't stay for it.
All right,
basically, he got some new tech or something, and then it came up with his symbol or his, I guess, something like that.
Signal.
Yeah, from his wrist, you saw the spider symbol, but it wasn't just a spider symbol. There was some other shit. It seemed to me like it was like Tony going, "Hey, here's another mission for you," because it looked like there was a bunch of heads there, and it was blinking on one of them, and I think. Again, no one really has explained what's going on exactly, but apparently it looks like, okay, you're working for Tony Stark now. This is your mission now. Go fight this guy.
I watched it again, and I was specifically looking for that. What it was, it's like a UI for his utility belt. It's like
that's what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like it's different like webbing styles. It's basically Tony said, "All right, here's your basic premise. I just expanded it for you."
Okay.
To work.
That could work, but yeah, either way, man, that scene's got me all fucked up too. I'm like, yo, I want that Spider-Man movie now, man. Holy shit.
I'm a little bit, torn on the title. It seems a little bit corny to me. I'm not gonna lie. Homecoming. I'm not crazy about the title.
Yeah, but you know why they did it though, right? Because it means a few things, like
Spider-Man. It's a few subtle
Yeah.
implications that that's so I like they're doing that, making it subtle and everything like that, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel you though, but my only problem is the logo. It just looks like something from a cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they'll eventually change it. They do some subtle changes every so often, especially when they announce the movie's out kind of early.
That shit look mad like Windows Paint-ish, to me.
Yeah. I was hoping to see, I feel like all the characters got some good shine, even, Hawkeye.
Hawkeye's like a real character now.
Yeah, he was.
He's kind of like a mentor.
Ultron, but now it's like, yeah, Hawkeye, I like him. He's cool.
He's kind of like a mentor to to the, I guess, the new recruits in a way. Holds his own and everything.
Definitely. Yeah, he was really good. Like you said, every character got a moment of shine in this movie. Nobody was forgotten about, really.
Yeah.
Even like Falcon, really showed his experience and just how kind of versatile he was, even though he's not necessarily a fighter. The Red Wing, his little mini drone. I'm like, that was cool.
I like the whole thing. What did he call it? What did he name it?
Red Wing.
I think Red Wing.
Yeah. Remember he wanted Scarlet Witch to talk to it. His name is Red Wing. It's a robot.
I love that.
Yeah, and he had enough skill to actually dodge that beam from Vision.
Yeah.
That was that's not easy. What did he do? Tuck and roll in the air, right?
Yeah, basically that shit was dope. And then remember, because he could have easily gotten away, but he was like, "Oh shit, my man's falling." We try to save him too. You know, you can't stop being a superhero. It was great. Oh,
Yep.
can we also talk about the fact? I mean, everyone said it, but I need to say it. I love the fact that this movie had three black superheroes and none of them died.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like that's got to be like a first for cinema, because like when you watch shows like The Walking Dead, when they introduce a new black character, another one of the other black characters got to die. It always happens like that. So it was cool, but at the same time, they weren't trying to throw it in your face either, because that's one of the things that always kind of bothers me when it comes to diversity. They try to throw it in your face like, oh, look at this, look at what we're doing. In this movie, it was natural, exactly, and speaking about things that are natural. Black Panther and Peter Parker were both introduced very, very naturally. I like that too. It wasn't like a certain other movie that came out this year where it was like, oh, you just found this bitch in a museum for no reason.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say Spider-Man was introduced naturally. I mean, clearly that was forced. Like it
didn't feel
we
forced
need
though.
to bring Spider-Man into this right now. Like it was forced in that regard, but it wasn't like totally unbelievable of Tony to think of a 16-year-old who's been making the headlines.
It wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna let's just stop the entire movie to show this dream sequence that makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, it wasn't like I'm gonna send you an email about all these other metahumans.
Oh.
I think it was like a little bit rushed, but even for something that was rushed, the scene was well done. It felt rushed, I would say that.
Yeah, I know. By the
We
way,
need to introduce him. We need to get him in, make him, get him into these fights. How are we gonna make the scene happen? It was a little bit rushed.
I don't know. It still felt pretty good. And then I have to say this though, because obviously I'm from Queens, right? When that scene came up, when it said Queens, New York, my theater was like, yeah.
And Captain and Spider-Man scene, he was like, oh, I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That was so cool, and like I love that because in the end credit scene, you gotta watch it again because in the end credit scene they show like Peter's messing around with his stuff, and then Aunt May walks in the room, and they're talking about like, so how'd you get the black eye? It's like, oh, some guy named Steve. And it's like, oh, the Steve from class? It's like, no, Steve from Brooklyn.
And and y'all know I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm watching this in a Brooklyn movie theater, and so everybody's reacting and shit.
Yeah. For me, it was the opposite. It was like, yeah, I'm from Queens. Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn. But to me, it was cool because you had three New Yorkers in the movie. You had fucking Spider-Man, you had Captain America, and you had Bucky. That was cool to me.
Yeah. And another thing, I don't know if people noticed this. It's three of some of the smartest people in the Marvel universe in this movie. Well,
yes.
Technically not Scott. It's Iron Man, Peter Parker,
and T'Challa.
T'Challa.
It's just a shame we didn't have Reed Richards.
Oh shit! Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Hank Pym technically is. It's not Scott Lang technically. I guess you can still throw. Yeah. Scott Lang is still very smart. So we had three of the biggest, 3 or 4 of the biggest intellects in this movie. If Reed Richards was in it, it would have been a wrap. Like holy shit.
Oh my gosh! No, okay. So yeah, just wrapping up because we gotta get stop for time. People want to play Uncharted tonight.
Yes.
Oh yes, same here.
But one of the things that I do want to mention is that the movie it was a good movie, and one of the things I really liked, and it was just a side thing, was with Ant-Man. It was just a small side thing. Is that like they tried their best to bring Ant-Man into this, and like everyone acknowledges nobody cares. Like what was it? It was something like with his exchange with Black Panther. It's like and it's like something like, oh, you're not going anywhere, or it's like I'm Ant-Man or something like that. He's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Or like some response to when he's like locked up in the gulag area. He's just like. And it's like, hey, Hank Pym always said never to trust a Stark. And Tony's like, who are you?
I like that. They kept doing that in all the other movies. I mean, they did it even in Ant-Man, where he's talking to Falcon. He's like, I'm Ant-Man, and he's like chuckling.
Oh, what was it? There was the best scene though in that fight scene. I didn't want to forget about this. Is like when he sneaks into Tony's armor, and he's And he just like pulls stuff apart, and like Tony's like something's going offline. He's like, "What the hell?" And it's like, "Who are you?" And it's like, "This is your conscience speaking. We don't talk much."
Yeah.
It was like, "Oh my
Oh,
god!"
so
He
good.
was just really funny. He was just really funny in this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, we got to wrap things up. We got stuff to do. I want to thank everybody for showing up today. It's been a real blast. Thanks, guys, for showing up. We need to do this for Apocalypse coming out
Yeah,
in
for
like
sure.
2 weeks or something like that.
Ooh, I'm hearing bad things about that movie.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier with the
Yeah.
reviews.
We'll see.
Just give X-Men to Marvel. It might be too late now. They're like 6 movies in.
Maybe if this movie bombs because of this, they chose the release date and they wanted to go against Civil War, and they if it bombs and then the reviews aren't helping it right now, if it actually bombs, they might be forced to at least give Fantastic Four away or at least do a Sony deal.
Yeah, we'll see. But man,
Yeah. But anyway, we'll wrap it up. Just real quick, just say everybody's name here. We had Fringy Gaming on the show with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I had a blast.
All right. We also have Broken Games HD.
Yeah, good time, good talk. Thanks for the invite.
And we also had Tony from the Coalition Throwdown Podcast.
yeah, man. Thanks a lot. You know me, man. I'm always down to talk about comic book movies, man. So thanks for having me on once again.
All right. We'll reconvene after Apocalypse. So we'll
Yes.
tell you guys what the deal is. So I'll see you guys later. Bye.
See you later.